Alright, hello everyone, and welcome back to the TowerDiveTV Weekly Tournament number 32. I'm Azaraki Dragon, and here casting with me today is Fancy Zergling. We're getting right into the second match of the day between Force 5 and Steezy Gaming. Already, we're seeing some of the picks as well as the bans, or at the moment, just the bans, but already we have Hecarim ban, who is, fairly standard ban at this point. He's very strong, very tanky, got a lot of early jungling presence as well as late game tankiness. So he's really a good force in team fights as well, and we were talking about right after last game that we might see some Amumu bans as well. Well, here we go. The purple team did in fact ban Amumu, doesn't really want that big AoE initiation that he brings. And on the blue team, they have in turn banned Twisted Fate, who we know has got a lot of global pressure under his belt. His ultimate allows him to teleport for, about a quarter of the distance of the map, so he can walk down a little bit near the dragon area and then gank bot lane, or run up a little bit and gank top lane. Unfortunately, he can't do it while standing in his own lane. The range is not that far, but it looks like the purple team banning Maokai as well. We haven't seen this style of banning from any team for quite a while. From the purple team, they banned both Maokai and Amumu, so those two champions were very strong picks. A little bit farther back, I think, during Season 2, although in Season 3 they haven't really been as powerful as they could have been, or certainly not as powerful as they were in Season 2 or Season 3, so the Singed ban makes a little bit more sense. Singed is still very tanky, can still disrupt your team very easily, and basically just sits top and farms for most of the game, so that helps them out as well. So we're going to be seeing the blue team hurry up and pick Thresh very, very quickly. As we said, if he's not banned, he's probably going to be picked, and that's certainly the case here, as Thresh, just one of the biggest playmakers in the bottom lane. He's got such a great kit, and he's got great initiation on top of that as well, so that's a very good pick. And the last ban for the blue team we haven't really talked about yet is Kha'Zix, who's got a lot of burst as well as high mobility. He's really going to be able to jump into the back line and burst down whichever squishy he wants, the AD carry, the AP mid. He's also a very hard person to lane against once he hits level 5, level 6, so you can see why they would want him banned on the blue team. So all around, the blue team's got some pretty standard bans. The purple team, as I said, Maokai and Amumu, not really nearly as common as people like Hecarim or Twisted Fate. Singed is a little bit there for bans, but Maokai, he's got gap closers, he's got pretty good disruption as well as his AoE ultimate, so that makes him a strong champion. However, in this current meta, he just doesn't put out enough damage, he doesn't put out enough CC in order to be one of the high priority picks. We see junglers like Sejuani who can just far out CC Maokai, which is really the main reason why Maokai isn't really played all that much. He just doesn't bring enough to the table.
One of the reasons why I think that Maokai was banned here, though, is what a lot of people don't take into consideration, is that his ultimate actually reduces damage in that area of effect. So perhaps maybe it was a composition choice where they said, hey, somebody played Maokai against us, and it really hurt our team because he was dropping these ultimates, reducing our damage to this level, and we really don't want to see that again, so let's go ahead and let's ban him and make sure that this isn't happening, that we can get our AoE comp off and we can do what we know how to do.
Yeah, I think one other reason that Maokai, is not really that much in favor at the moment is that team fights are generally a little bit more mobile than they used to be, where Maokai is very definite in terms of where his ultimate is positioned, so a lot of champions at this point can dash out or flash out of the range of his ultimate and basically force the fight to happen somewhere outside of that. And like I said before, he just doesn't bring enough damage or CC to the table, which is unfortunate because, as you said, his ultimate is really substantial and really helps in fights. But going back to some of the picks that were picked, the blue team went with Vayne and Syndra, so it looks like they are going to go for the picks this time. Maybe they saw the last game, I'm not sure. This isn't not the same team anymore, but Vayne and Syndra both have a lot of burst damage, and we saw Syndra was able to pull off a lot of great CC as well as 100 to 0 with her ultimate. Very high burst damage on that AP mid, and we also saw Vayne do quite a bit of damage. If she gets some of those early kills, she can easily snowball into the late game and be this amazing force with silver bolts as well as a lot of attack speed. So the blue team, fairly good picks so far. They've gotten a lot of high priority champions like Thresh and like Vayne, whereas the purple team, they haven't really turned out with the more high priority picks. They have Sejuani, who's a very good jungler, especially right now. A lot of people are tending to play her a lot more, but Alistar isn't really that high priority. Neither is Tristana, and Jace has not been as popular as he was before.
Hmm.
So the purple team not really picking your straight up popular champs. We might be able to see if they can use this comp effectively. The one odd thing I see, however, is the fact that they have Jace, who's really good at poking. We have Tristana, who's also got a good amount of poke on her since she's one of the longer range AD carries of the game. And we also have two people who are tanky, who are initiators. We have Sejuani as well as Alistar. So we have sort of two sides of the same, not the same coin, but two different sides that are playing to work in the purple team. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make use of both of these champions. For their AP mid, I really want to see a champion who's got good AoE or good poke. Something I would rather see. I would rather see good all-in AoE, and that would really help round out their team comp, because they do have a little bit of all-in with Tristana, who can put out a lot of damage, but their team comp is looking a little bit like it's less focused than the blue team, where the blue team has a lot of CC, and they're really just making way for Vayne. They're building a comp for the most part around Vayne, where they have Cho'Gath, who's a tank, who's going to be in the top lane. Jarvan, who's a tank, is going to be in the jungle. Thresh in the bottom lane, he's got a lot of CC on his kit, as well as a lot of ways to protect Vayne. We also have Syndra, who has the stun, as we know, and she can also put out a lot of damage herself. So they're building a comp to basically help Vayne survive and put as much damage out as they can.
Really, what I've been noticing with purple team is that a lot of their champions have this ability to peel people off Tristana. So what I'm kind of feeling here is a team comp based around more protect the carry than an AoE comp, and really this comp will really do well with that, as they have so much mobility, so much crowd control. They can keep people off Tristana, and even when blue team tries to get in there, tries to engage, they can just keep Vayne out of the fight. They can keep all the CC off of Tristana, while Tristana just sits in the backfield and just pegs at whoever she can get to. So really, that's something I really wanted to see here, and it's going to be a really great thing to see, as we see kind of a more standard meta play here with blue team, and a really mobile CC-oriented meta here with purple team.
With the purple team, as you said, they're going to have to make use of that, and Orianna's really going to synergize well with Sejuani as well, just dashing in and using her ultimate on top of that. So we'll have to see how this game ends up playing out. I think I might have to give the advantage to the blue team, however, just because their comp is a little bit more solid. They have just straight up tankier champions. The purple team, Sejuani's very tanky, and Alistar's pretty tanky himself. However, the blue team, they have two tanks that have the ability to farm. Jarvan can farm the jungle, and Cho'Gath can also farm the top lane, so they have quite a bit of farming potential on those. But now that the summoner blockers are off, we can take a look at some of the summoner spells real quick. One of the biggest things that stand out right now is the fact that Sejuani did not take Flash in this game, so it's going to be odd. She's going to be a little bit worse for wear in terms of her initiation. She does have a dash, but I really would like to see a flash on her as well. I don't think the exhaust will be able to bring her as much use as Flash will, especially considering Alistar already has exhaust.
Yeah, I really feel that her ganks are going to suffer a little bit with that, but I feel that was more of an end game decision to take exhaust, because they see that they have a hyper carry on the other team with Vayne. So what I'm feeling is that they decided to go with 2 exhausts over 1 exhaust, kind of make sure that Vayne is just shut down throughout that fight. Even though she does have that true damage on her Silver Bolt, it'll keep her from doing as much damage to the people that need to keep her away from Tristana.
Yeah, and Tristana, like you said, she's going to be putting out a lot of damage late game. We know that her Q is I believe 80% when it gets to max level, 80 or 90% attack speed steroid, so that's really going to help her out in the late game, as well as her range. So she builds stuff like Blade of the Ruined King. She's going to be able to make use of that high attack speed along with the rest of her kit. And looking around the rest of the game, not really seeing too much in terms of odd summoner spells. Now that we've been seeing a lot more teleport, would you prefer to see someone like Cho with teleport, someone in that top lane, so that he could roam around a little bit more?
Really, I think that with Jace being in the top lane, it's gonna really go to him. Cho'Gath does like to sit there and farm and get healthy, But Jace can really just get in there and start beating on people, especially when he jumps onto you and just does insane amount of damage. And then he can just disengage and walk away. So I really feel that Jace was actually a pretty strong pick here.
Yeah, Jace is a fairly strong pick in the top lane. And going over to the jungle matchup, we have Jarvan against Sejuani, both champions with a lot of CC as well as a lot of tankiness. So I'm wondering how this is going to work out. Now, Sejuani has an ultimate that basically stuns everyone in her radius, while Jarvan is able to wall them in. So both of those abilities are good in their own respect, and I'm wondering how both of these teams will be able to play off of those, because it's really going to turn out who's going to be able to play with that ultimate a lot better. So Jarvan, he can lock a lot of people in, but they won't be stunned, so they have the possibility of flashing out or jumping out, and they can still use a lot of their abilities. However, Sejuani's doesn't really last nearly as long as Jarvan's does. So we have a little odd fight going on in terms of which jungler can be better in this scenario. And you know, in the last game, I sort of compared the two, saying their ganks are pretty similar, because Jarvan's gap close is also his CC, it's his knockup, whereas Sejuani's gap close is also a knockup. So they both have some really nice early ganking potential. So we'll have to see which can prove out a little bit farther ahead. And in the early game, speaking of those ganks, Jarvan's going to have more damage coming into some of these ganks than Sejuani will, but Sejuani, as we know, has permafrost. She can slow people a lot better, so I'm wondering how well this is going to work, but sort of mismatch, I have to say, because Sejuani, she's going to be able to basically slow down Cho'Gath, but she might not have enough damage because Cho'Gath is just that tanky, and Jarvan, on the other hand, say if he goes to gank top or bottom lane, he doesn't have as much CC as Sejuani, whereas the purple team, they have more mobility in their top lane, they have more mobility in their bottom lane, so we might be just seeing a little bit of mismatch in terms of their in terms of ganking for their junglers. But I think in terms of the overall team comp, both of these junglers are going to be able to work out pretty well.
So yeah, I'm really probably going to give the ganking to Jarvan. He does do quite a bit more damage than Sejuani does on her own. She does do a lot of damage, but she's really dependent on the laners to get in there and do the damage for her while she keeps people locked down. Though once it gets to team fights, what the red team is going to want to do here is they're going to want to make sure that it's in an enclosed area so everybody can get into Orianna's ultimate, everybody can get into Sejuani's ultimate, making sure Alistair can keep people knocked up and to keep the people out of the fight who need to be out of the fight. And what Jarvan's going to do is Jarvan's going to allow for that, and with the close range of Vayne there, they're going to be able to get all that stuff off onto her as well, and then just knock her out as she's low on health, or just make sure she's not in the fight, and making sure Tristana just sit back and do all the damage she's known to do. So really, I want to give the team fights more to red team there, because they do have kind of like that close in, we want to keep the fight compact, while Jarvan will kind of make it so.
Well, the thing about that is that what Jarvan does is he's not really going to be near his team when he uses his ultimate. His ultimate is going to be used to catch people out. He's going to want to dive into the back line, dive into the enemy team with the ultimate. So his own team, it's very, very rare that his own team is going to get caught in a lot of that cataclysm. So I don't really think that the red team is going to have that much of an advantage going into that, saying that Jarvan is going to be able to capture his own team in his ultimate. I just don't think that's a scenario that's going to happen with the playstyle that Jarvan does, because we see Jarvan, you know, he's just going to jump into the backline, going to try to kill Orianna, more likely Orianna than Tristana, because Tristana does have her dashes.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to bring up, is really once he jumps to that backline, his main target would probably be Tristana, but Tristana will just jump out and laugh at him, and then when he tries to get even closer, she'll just ult him away and continue to do all that damage onto him.
Looks like both teams, they're just going to play a little bit defensively. The blue team a little bit more defensively, you know, spreading out, making sure they have sight of anything that's going to happen in their jungle, where the red team, they're just grouping up around blue, making sure no one gets around their own blue buff. So both fairly, you know, defensive starts. It looks like Alistair might go for an aggressive ward right there. Unfortunately missing the brush, but he will still be able to see traffic going in and out of there, so that's a good play on his part. Vayne, I think, was able to see some of the red team in this situation as well, so it looks like Thresh is going to walk right through that ward. Red team knows where the bottom lane is, but the mid, jungle, and top lane for the blue team, they're still at their own blue buff.
That's generally what we're probably going to see throughout the tournament, is very standard, making sure the blue buff doesn't get invaded. blue team going down for the golems and making sure that their junglers do have an easier time to start out. Because we saw what happens once your jungler gets behind, he doesn't get his ganks off, your lanes start to suffer as one jungler is able to get more ganks off than the other, and it really just snowballs the game into the opponent's direction.
It looks like both teams, neither team will try anything risky at this point. It is a single elimination best of one tournament, so you don't really have much room for error. As we saw the last game, a smite steal away from Ramus is really something that can make a huge difference in the game. So suppose you try for it in an invade and you get first blooded instead. Well, that's a really huge risk that you took and it just didn't pay off. So I sort of like the fact that both teams are playing a little bit defensively, and I think neither team really has the level one. I think if I had to call a level one fight, it would go to the blue team and just have a little bit more in terms of level one CC. However, as I said, the red team also has a pretty good amount of level 1 CC. They have the dash from Sejuani able to knock people up, as well as Alistar on top of that, and they have a lot of damage to follow that up with. So the blue team will have been ahead in that fight, but obviously they don't really want to risk that.
Yeah, it was the best decision. That's good decision making there. Just to say, hey, we'll stay home. If you stay home, we'll just go ahead, farm our jungles, then get to lane, and everything go back to normal. So I really like
a gentleman's agreement. Like, all right, I won't mess with you, you won't mess with me. But it looks like a Thresh Hook is going to miss. Just barely got level 2, but unfortunately not able to make any action happen out of it. But in the mid lane, it looks like Fiery Beast is going to try to gank Orianna. Unfortunately, Sejuani here for a counter gank. He's going to dash in, knock up Fiery Beast. He's going to be taking a lot of damage from that, and I think that engagement really worked out in favor of the red team.
I really like that engagement there for the red team. Sejuani did have a great map awareness there, seeing that Orianna was getting ganked and managed to do some damage to Jarvan, which after he gets these wraiths or does a little more farming, he's going to be forced to go ahead and go back or pop at least a couple potions so he can go and sustain. Really what it means, though, is that he's unable to go ahead and go gank top or go gank bottom from that other position like he would have been able to. Now, I do see Sejuani going to top lane here. Do you think they're going to be able to get this gank off and choke off?
They might be able to. He doesn't have any wards, and as we know, Sejuani does have a dash. She knows she can wait because they don't have any wards, and it looks like she's going to go in for the engagement. There is the dash. She's going to be able to knock them up a little bit, doing a lot of damage, and there goes the Rupture. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to get the kill. He's going to flash out of that, but they did pop a flash in the top lane. We might see Sejuani return there fairly soon.
All right. Now we see the Battle of the Balls here in mid now. They both have a lot of poke. They both have a lot of utility. Who do you think is kind of the better mid pick here?
The better mid pick here, it's going to be hard to tell, but in the top lane we do have Jace trying to put on some pressure under the tower, but a great counter by Fiery Beast, popping a flash. But going back to the mid lane, I think Orianna might have the advantage in the later game. However, Sejuani is going to have a better early game advantage, especially when she hits level 6. She's going to be able to burst down Orianna really, really easily. But I do like the fact that Sejuani knows about this and basically spends a lot more time near the mid lane, spending a lot of time around wraiths. And we saw right there she was standing behind the tower.
I kind of see a pretty good standoff here. There's only about there's less than a 1k difference in the gold. Looking at the farm, we do see that Vayne does have a lead over Tristana, while she did go for that Doran's Blade. Start. Again, we see that with an aggressive lane that can't really sustain her if she takes damage. Once again, do you think that was a good pick, or is it like last game where she should have gone for something more defensive?
I feel like she should have gone for something a little bit more defensive. As we see right now, she's not really handling this poke very well, but a great condemn, able to disengage some of this fight. However, he's going in for it, and it looks like Tristana is going to aggressively rocket jump into the fight. The exhaust is going to shut down a lot of her damage, but it looks like a counter exhaust from Alistar onto Vayne, and she's going to be able to lantern out of there. Now Jarvan is up here trying to counter gank. He's not going to be able to make any action happen, but preventing a first blood is certainly good enough in its own respect.
Absolutely. I felt that jump was a little off by Tristana. She should have jumped closer to Vayne there, just so she could have got a little bit more damage off and a little more opposing to her, instead of onto the Thresh. But that was great play by both sides there, getting the knockback off with Alistar there, who is a champion we really haven't seen lately, even though he does have such great CC and he does have sustain built into his kit. Then Jarvan just showing up at the right time saying, all right, kids, that's enough.
Yeah, first blood is certainly something that you don't want to lose in this game. You don't want to give it to the other team, and you really want it. So a lot of junglers will either be aggressive or they'll be defensive. You hardly ever see a passive jungler in the early game before first blood is taken. You'll see Jarvan trying to make action happen around the map, or at least prevent action. In the top lane, Dr. Evil taking quite a bit of damage from Cho'Gath. He's able to get a lot of free hits down, as well as some of the minions putting a lot of pressure on him as well. It looks like Jarvan is trying to gank the mid lane a little bit. Unfortunately, Orianna's not really stepping out. Even though she doesn't have any wards, she knows that she wants to be a little bit careful, especially now that Sejuani's level 6. Sejuani could easily burst her down at this point. Looks like they're not going for it, and in the bot lane, Jarvan looks like he's turning his attention down there. There is no wards. He's going right in for this engagement. The Thresh hook misses, and it looks like he's going to initiate onto both members of the red team. They are targeting Alistar at this point. Tristana rocket jumps away. She's going to be safe, but they're going to be able to try to get... There's the third proc, and one more auto attack after this. There's the first blood for Vayne. She's going to get the third proc. Great play by the blue team.
That's an excellent play by the blue team, and great knock up there by Jarvan, knocking up both of the red team's members. Now, something I do want to bring attention to is Alistar had 0 wards here, and that's something that you really need to take into consideration when you are pushing up like that, and you do have the push advantage, is your ward coverage. You should at least have a ward here between the bush and dragon, so that you can see when people are coming up, so you can see those...
Looks like Thresh is going to land a flay as well as a follow-up hook. The Condemned not landing, and it looks like he's going to try to box, but a flash out from Tristana is going to keep her safe.
I mean, that was a good flash to keep her safe, but really Tristana should have been playing more defensive without her support here. And she could have saved that flash for another time, so really I'd like to see her just keeping behind the minions, keeping it safe until Alistar gets back here.
One thing I see about quite a few AD carries that a lot of times they
Another
will
hook.
poke their head out, and it looks like, yes, another hook, and she's going to be able to jump out of there. Unfortunately, not going to be able to secure the kill. She's just going to make it out of there. And it looks like Vayne and Thresh are forced to back as Sejuani has shown up now. But like I said before, you know, it's worth missing a little bit of CS if you keep your life. And that's something that a lot of people, you know, there's a point where people overvalue CS a little bit. But it looks like in the mid lane we have an engagement as the ultimate from Sejuani going up, but Barrier able to deter that kill. But it looks like she's still going to try to put pressure, and Orianna's still going to stay in the mid lane. Sejuani is here, however, for the counter gank, and it looks like she will be able to do a lot of damage. Flash forced out from Orianna, and it looks like they might be able to secure the kill, but Jarvan is here. He's able to follow up on that, knock up Sejuani, and now she is on the run. And great save right there by Jarvan.
Man, I just want to say these junglers are on the ball in this mid lane. I mean, they come up at the exact right time to save both their mid laners, and they're just going, as the mid laners just duking it out, trading it blow for blow. Even though we did see Orianna get a little low, we just saw Syndra overextended for that, and then get ganked on for her overextension, and then Jarvan come here to save her blood. I mean, really, just this jungle play is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I'm loving this sort of jungler interaction. As we said before, both junglers looking to make a lot of action happen around the map. Jarvan was able to get the first blood onto Vayne in the bottom lane, and that's really going to snowball her. She did go back, and at the same time, she's going for the BF sword as well as longsword, so that's going to build into a Vampiric Scepter, and at that point into perhaps a Bloodthirster, although I'd rather see a Blade of the Ruined King. She might be going for the BF sword just for that flat-out damage in the early game, and then finishing up the Blade of the Ruined King afterwards, but we'll have to see where her mind's at in that situation. But both mid laners picking up Chalice of Harmony, and they're both really spammy champions, so really makes a lot of sense to keep up their mana regen as well as give them a little bit of magic resist against their lane opponent.
I really feel like picking up that BF sword was the best idea, if it wasn't the only idea, just because they're past the point where Tristana is kind of scary. She has a good mid game or early game, and then she'll fall off on the mid game, and Vayne can really take advantage of that, getting in there, tumbling in on her, and putting off all that damage.
Looks like Jarvan is coming in for a gank in the mid lane. He's going to land the knockup, and it looks like the ultimate from Orianna is going to come out, but it's not going to save her from Syndra's ultimate.
That was an absolutely sexy play there. And it makes me want to play Syndra, seeing all that burst coming from her, and that was an excellent knockup from Jarvan. Just on the ball with those knockups.
Looks like Jarvan is going to follow up with a gank in the top lane. He knows that Jace is out of mana, so Jarvan's going to be able to take advantage of this. Switching stances doesn't cost anything, but it's not going to be able to acceleration get out of there. There goes the Rupture, it lands, and here's forced to flash out, but a great Cataclysm preventing him from escaping with that last acceleration gate. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, the blue team did pick up a kill onto Tristana and Thresh, you know, just trying to poke out Alistar just that little bit more after the engagement.
That was excellent timing by Jace, or not Jace, Jarvan there to wait for the Jace flash, just so he can ultimate right after that. Jace was truly just screwed after he flashed. I mean, nobody else had ever called out that his ultimate was gone, so really he should have waited himself to wait for that ultimate, to wait for that flash, because really that could have saved his life there if he just would have held on to his flash till Jarvan did go up to his ultimate beforehand.
And it looks like the bot lane, they're still putting a lot of pressure on, able to bring the minion wave to the enemy tower, and Sejuani's really forced to come down here to try to save this tower. Tower advantage is something that in the first game we saw it wasn't valued as much as it should have been. We see Sejuani constantly coming into the bot lane whenever their team loses an engagement to try to prevent damage dealt to the tower. And as a result, we've seen no towers being taken down this game. It's a little bit closer than the last game, however, the blue team is at a definite lead. Jarvan tries to knock up Sejuani. Unfortunately, she's going to be able to dash right out of there. And Syndra in the mid lane is going to just keep trying to poke as much as she can on Orianna.
Yeah, unfortunately we do see that blue team is pulling ahead here. So what's going to end up happening is, even though Jace does want these ganks up here to kind of take care of Cho'Gath and keep him from farming, Vayne is just going to be going to town here on bottom lane, and then in mid lane, Syndra's just doing more and more damage to Orianna. So we're going to have to see some decisions from Sejuani here. Does she leave a lane out to dry? Does she spread herself too thin? What is she going to do at this point?
I'm not sure. I think she's really going to have to prevent some of the snowball from Vayne, because at this point Vayne can afford to go with Bloodthirster first, because she doesn't need the attack speed. The Silver Bolts isn't really going to help her all that much at this point in the game, because no one has that much health, no one has that much resistances to punch through with true damage, so you can afford to build that straight up damage, and there's really going to be nothing the enemy team can do about it. Tumble auto attack is going to be putting down a lot of hurt to anyone she decides to hit, and she can follow that up with a Blade of the Ruined King and complete that at the same time as their enemies will complete their first item. So Vayne is so far ahead that she can really afford to go that straight up damage with the Bloodthirster. But it looks like Jarvan is in for another gank in the bottom lane. Sejuani is going to be here, going to try to counter gank this as best she can. However, in the top lane we have a small engagement as something happens, but it looks like Thresh goes in with the hook. A beautiful box catching up both Sejuani and Alistar, and it looks like they are going to be able to start trying to kill Sejuani. She's going to be taken down right there. It looks like the exhaust goes down onto Tristan. Unfortunately, not close enough to finish off the kill. It looks like Vayne is going to try to finish off Alistar at this point. Alistar going in a little bit too far. He's going to be caught out a little bit, but knocks Jarvan back, and it looks like a double knockback from Tristan, and being able to take him down under the tower, and the barrier might not be able to save Tristan, as that last auto attack is going to be able to kill Vayne and going to be able to escape with the lantern right after that as well.
That was just an absolutely crazy team fight, and a great team fight for Blue. That ultimate there at the last second by Jarvan was just what they needed in order to secure all those kills, and the amazing threat. We see one of the best things about Thresh there that people don't really talk about is that lantern, the ability to use it as a free flash. I mean, it's absolutely crazy what Thresh brings to a team, and we can definitely see why he is just always banned. He not only initiated that fight with his hook there, he also ended the fight by making sure Vayne wasn't taken out in the tower and giving Tristana the shutdown. Now, one thing we did miss during that team fight... It
looks like Vayne is going to be trying to condemn under the tower, and they're going to be able to switch tank this to death, and there we go. Tower not doing nearly enough damage to kill Vayne. They're going to pick up the Sejuani kill, as well as this tower. There it goes, minions taking it down. So it looks like the red team, they're really far behind at this point. 2 towers down, and Vayne at this point is 6-0.
Yeah, that's really, it's turning into blue team's game to lose at this point. Now, one thing I do want to cover that we did miss during that fight down bottom is that there's actually a fight between the mid laners who are both going down to try to help bottom. Syndra did come on top and managed to take that mid tower, so we see just that lead compounding even more and more.
Vayne is so far ahead, she's really able to put pressure right there, and Thresh going right over the wall, landing a play. They're going to be able to take down Alistar really, really quickly with that third proc on Silver Bolts. And godlike Vayne, that's really, really strong. She's 7-0, 15 minutes into the game already, sitting on 3,000 gold. She's going to be able to buy quite a bit with that, but it looks like Jace is in the mid lane, going to be able to stop Syndra, and there goes the To The Skies that's going to be able to take down the kill as well as Ignite, and he's going to finally shut down Reigning Terror over this mid lane.
I mean, that was a
Syndra, who's been reigning the terror over the mid lane.
Well, Sejuani's been there quite a bit too, so...
Yes.
But, Jace has really made a great call there to come down and kind of help out, though somebody really does need to get to that top lane and keep Cho'Gath from taking this tower and getting all that farm. Something I do want to touch upon, though, is Vayne not only just schooling Tristana and CS with 50 more CS, but she has 7 kills. Really, that right there is just going to make this game just extremely difficult to come back from. Not only that, but we do see a 6k gold lead for blue. I mean, that's approximately, that's about a 25% lead, 20% lead. That's when it becomes really hard to get come back from that deficit.
Looks like the red team, they're going to try to stop Cho'Gath from basically pushing down this tower, but there's really not enough of them up here. Looks like Jarvan is going to try to do as much as he can as well, going behind the tower, going to try to kill Sejuani. There goes the ultimate. He's going to get stunned, however, and Orianna's right here to follow up. He getting the last hit onto Sejuani right before he gets taken down by Jace. And it looks like both Syndra and Cho'Gath are waiting in this bush for Orianna. Orianna forced to flash out of there, and she's going to live. However, they're going to try to kill Jace at this point, and Jace able to pop the acceleration gate and get right out of there, but they did end up picking up the kill onto Sejuani. Unfortunately, they lost Jarvan in the midst of that, so Jace able to actually land a shock blast, and she's going to be able to do a lot of damage charging on, and there we go. Orianna's right there to follow up, and the last auto attack is going to be able to pick up the Syndra kill.
Alright, and we see Cho'Gath's a little extended here.
And Cho'Gath is a little bit overextended, going to be able to flash out of there. Unfortunately, Jace is continuing onto the fight. He's actually really powerful right now, and there goes Orianna picking up that final hit for the kill. Jace is 2-1, and Orianna getting back into this game with 2 kills. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, it looks like we might have a pseudo engagement here as Sejuani actually oversteps her boundaries, and it looks like a flash flay from Thresh is going to be able to negate a lot of the damage the red team is able to do, and it looks like the exhaust going down onto Vayne. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. There goes the third proc, along with another auto attack to kill Alistar, and she's going to be able to tumble in for a double kill onto Tristan. Is going to try her best to catch out Sejuani, but Sejuani is just going to be able to dash away from that, and she's going to be just trying to scare her away at that last second, but Vayne is 9-0 at this point. Let's see, she's sitting on 1,000 gold on top of the Phantom Dancer that she just bought after going back. She's so far ahead of this engagement.
Yeah, that's just, this Vayne's on top of her game. She got 2 kills, almost a 3rd kill, surviving through not only the Alistar abilities, but also 2 exhausts.
Oh, it looks like she's going to get caught out right there by Sejuani. Unfortunately, Sejuani is going to take a lot of damage in crits, as well as that true damage proc. Unfortunately, Thresh getting caught out by Jace. There's going to be no backup for Vayne, and she's finally going to fall 10-1. Double kill for Jace. Jace is now the one who's going to be a threat in this game for the red team.
Yeah, that's a shutdown gold. It's going to be nice for when he goes back and finishes his items up. But really, they could afford a couple blue team can afford a couple screw-ups at this point. There's had more than twice the kills, have a 6k gold advantage. I mean,
Sejuani is going to be caught out in the enemy team's jungle here, ultimately flashing over the blue buff right when Tristana was using her ultimate, so she's going to be able to get out of that engagement in the top lane. Jace is going to be fighting Cho'Gath, and at this point he's doing a lot of damage to Cho'Gath. Got his Brutalizer as well as Bilgewater Cutlass doing a lot of damage, as well as penetrating some of the armor of Cho'Gath. He's continuing to follow up in this fight, but it looks like Jarvan is going to try his best to do anything he can to stop this dragon in the bot lane. Meanwhile, in the top lane, there goes the kill. Jace is finally going to be able to take down the kill onto Cho'Gath, but in the bot lane, we still have the engagement near dragon, as Sejuani is chasing out both Syndra, and it looks like he's going to be able to dodge the ultimate. Unfortunately, Syndra getting hit as collateral damage right there. It looks like the Ignite is going to be able to finish off Tristan, and now they're going back in for the fight. The rest of the blue team is here, as well as Vayne. Vayne is still extremely strong after that shutdown. He's going to be able to clean up this fight, as Jarvan just barely dies right there to Sejuani, and it looks like she's going to be able to follow up. Triple kill for Vayne, and she's going to be very, very far ahead. Once again, 13-1.
Yeah, really what Red should have done was just taken that dragon and just backed off. They knew Vayne would be up, Vayne and Thresh would be back soon, and they lost an opportunity to kind of get some gold there and kind of just get back into this game, but really that engagement cost them far too much.
And it looks like the dragon's going to be taken right there by the blue team, just furthering their lead little by little. And they're almost 10k gold ahead of the red team at this point, and it looks like the kill score is 18-10 towers, 4-0. So really, the blue team, they're winning in all respects of the game, and I would like to see a little bit more ward coverage from them, as the red team, even though they're behind, has three wards out, while blue team only has 1, and that one is inside the Dragon Cove, so it's not really able to give them sight of much throughout the map. So they're going to want to ward a little bit more aggressively now that they've taken some of the towers of the red team, just to make sure that they can continue pushing without being ambushed.
I mean, Really, at this point, Red just needs to hunker down once more and just make sure that they don't get picked off like they were doing to blue team
It
here.
looks like Vayne might be getting caught out here as the ultimate from Orianna goes on to Sejuani. And it looks like she is going to try her best to get out of the engagement. She's lifestealing a lot, being able to go back into the fight. Orianna forced to flash out of there, and it looks like the rest of blue team is here to follow up. Vayne is going to live with the immense amounts of lifesteal that she has and just barely picking up the kill. And it looks like Syndra will actually finish the kill onto Alistar, and it looks like she's going to try to kill Jace at this point. A lot of damage being taken down, and there goes the double kill for Syndra. Jace being taken down in that fight, and there goes a 3-for-0 engagement in favor of the blue team once again. They're just going to push down onto this bottom turret.
See, and that's just something that really they just didn't take into account, that blue was in their jungle and coming for them. They even had a ward there to warn them, and they just still went through with it. They know they're behind. They know that blue team has extremely powerful members right now, and that they can't afford to lose people like that. They need to be making sure that they're only farming at tower, that they're just making that they're here to just get in these team fights and pick off people who get under the tower.
And Vayne is just kind of soloing this tower, doing so much damage through crits as well as her true damage procs. That's almost all of Alistar's health just from Vayne alone. They really need to CC her if they want to kill her. And as we saw in the last fight, she has so much lifesteal that doesn't really matter if you do a lot of damage to her. She's going to be able to get most of it back. And it looks like Thresh is going to throw himself over the wall, and Vayne is going to be able to pick up the kill on Jason. Now she's tower diving for Alistar, taking a little bit of tower hits, but lifestealing through them all. And excellent Cataclysm by Jarvan, forcing the rest of the red team to stick inside that. And it looks like a quadra kill for Vayne. She's very strong right now. She's going to try her best to kill Syndra. And there goes one last proc. And oh, Jarvan is going to take it with a red buff. Unfortunately, not the penta for Vayne.
Scumbag Jarvan.
Well, you know, there isn't really much he could have done about it. The red buff is really the thing that was able to secure that kill for him. But it looks like that's going to be the GG. Blue team winning this game 2 of the day.
That was 15 kills ahead, 26-11 with 44k gold. I mean, once Vayne started getting those kills, this game turned into an absolute slaughter. Though at first we did see some excellent jungle play there from both sides of the jungle. I mean, it was such an action-packed game from the get-go. It was just an exciting game to watch.